So maybe you have a few hundred or even a few thousand items on Amazon that you're selling. One of the big questions that I have is how do I keep up with the price changes that happen daily from the competitors that are selling the same items that I am? Well, what you can use is a repricing tool to help automate a lot of that. Well, in this video, we're going to go ahead and show you a tool that I use called Repriceit that allows you to do just that. Let's get started. Hey guys, it's Lenny from Simon Says Resell, where I go ahead and share my FBA experiences with you. I create how-to videos, show you some tips and tricks, and just kind of give you my experiences on Amazon. Well, first and foremost, I want to go ahead and start this video. If those that have watched my videos in the past may have heard me mention this a few times. My wife was pregnant with our third kid, our third girl. I'm happy to say that she was born and everything is awesome. Mommy and baby are doing great. So I just want to go ahead and share that with you guys. And I do apologize that I didn't post a video last Monday. And the main reason was because, we had a new kid. So things are much better now as far as timing and routine. So we have a bit of routine down now. So things are great. So I just wanted to apologize first, but also share the good news. So I'm going to try to keep my postings to Monday as best that I can. I'm also looking for more type of videos to do with you guys. Anything you can suggest, let me know. Just go ahead and post in the comments. So I'm looking for more feedback as far as certain topics to do some videos on. So yeah, so this video, as I mentioned before, is going to be about repricing. So it's a big question that I get. Once people get started with Amazon, once they get things listed, things are awesome. Maybe they have 50 or 100 or even 200 or 500 items listed. They're happy, they're good. Things are selling, things are awesome. But one thing they are going to notice is the pricing. How do you keep up with the pricing that changes all the time? Because you have competitors, other offers that are out there that you're competing with. That are changing their pricing very quickly and maybe by a few cents. And how do you do that? How do you keep up with those changes? So in this video, I'm going to go ahead and introduce to you a repricing tool called Repriceit. You can go to repriceit.com to check it out. I'm going to kind of explain more theory and concept on the video right here, and then I'm going to cut to me showing you the actual product itself through my account to show you kind of how I have it set up. Now, there are a few things to consider with a repricing tool. One, the one I'm showing you isn't the only one. There are a number of them out there. This is just the one that I landed on for maybe a few reasons. One, a lot of people use it. I know like Reezy Resells use it, and a few others use it, like Nathan, who's a big bookseller and also a big YouTube person that creates videos about selling books on Amazon. But I use it differently than they do. And does it mean that theirs is better than mine, or mine weighs better than theirs, or the right way or the wrong way? I don't know. I just do it the way I like to do it. And again, one thing that this app allows you to do is you be very creative with it. So use it the best way you can based on your business model, based on your needs, based on your budget. So the way I'm going to show you how I do it isn't the right way or the wrong way. It's just a way that I do it. And I'll go into, I spoke to Reezy directly probably 2 months ago about this, and he provided some feedback on how he uses it. And he may have a video or two out there as well, but he uses it differently, and I'll kind of compare mine versus his. His, I can definitely say, is more efficient as far as time and saving time and stuff like that. I just list my books a little differently, and I'll go into that in a second. So the big thing you got to think about when it comes to repricing tools is a lot of people are scared because what happens if I set up my template, for example, and it reprices all my books to a penny, and then all my books sell, or a lot of my books sell, and I lose all the money. Or maybe it reprices the books too high and they don't sell and I don't get any sales. So the one bit of advice I have to give with tools like this is do your research. You can test it out easily. What you can do, and I'll show you in the video later, is once you set up a template, which is more like a rule base, you can basically say do this when this happens or that when this happens. But at the very bottom, you can check a box that says, upload these changes to Amazon automatically. So if you check that box, it's going to change everything on Amazon as far as the pricing. Now, if you don't check the box, it'll run a report and you can see what the results are without affecting your pricing on Amazon, which is really cool. But first and foremost, do your research. Try to figure out if this is the right tool you want to use. There are others out there. I don't know any on the top of my head. I did test a few out before. Some focus mainly on the buy box. Some focus mainly on the lowest price. But the Repriceit tool is, I think, is probably one of the best because it has so many options. It isn't 100%, and none of these are 100% accurate. There are going to be items that maybe it doesn't list correctly, or it misses, or it does list and maybe makes a mistake. But the biggest thing is you got to kind of keep on top of it as far as every now and then check the results to make sure that you're seeing the results you want, and I'll get into that again later. So there are a few ways that this whole Repricer thing works. It really comes down to the workflow and the business model you have. So the workflow meaning when you list a book, how do you list it? Do you list it with Inventory Labs? Do you list it with ScanLister? Do you list it with some other app? When you list a book, do you list maybe 10 books and just set them at an astronomically high price to get them in the system, into Amazon, and then use the Repricer later to go ahead and find those prices that you set and have it kind of do its thing then? For example, I know Resales does this. When he scans a book in, he basically sets a pretty high price, maybe it's $499.99, something like that, something pretty high. And he doesn't really care at first, or his scanners and his listers don't care so much at first, because he has a method to his madness. So he lists the book very high, and that's okay, because what's going to happen is once he lists the book initially very high, he then applies this to the Repriceit template that he uses, and the template looks for that specific price. So if I said $49.99, the Repriceit tool looks for that, and it says if I have any books that are listed as $49.99, then do this. Maybe this is set them based on the condition average of all the other offers. So if there's 20 other offers and the average price is $14.95, set it around that price. Maybe it's $14.91 or $14.98 or whatever it is. So what you can do is what he does is he has about 10 different templates that he uses in Repriceit. It catches the first kind of price of the item, and then it trickles down from there. And think about it this way is, if the first template doesn't work and there's kind of more that needs to be done, the second template may catch it. If that one doesn't work, then the third will catch it, and then so on and so forth. So eventually at the end, it should get everything. Now, I remember him saying that it's not 100% either, and he does have to go in every now and then to look and to see if there's any books that are priced at $49.99, because those obviously are repriced wrong. But at the end of the day, what he's doing is he's saving himself time and money, because the amount of books that he lists, he's a high volume seller, obviously. So the amount of books that he lists, he doesn't have time, and he doesn't have time to pay people and the money to pay people to sit there and list the books and have them do research on every single book as they list them to get the right price. Now, that is an option. And to segue into that, that's kind of what I do. Since I'm not a high volume seller like he is, and I may push out 100 books a week, that's kind of my goal, is 100 books to Amazon a week, no matter what. What I do is when I list a book, I list it with Inventory Labs for now. I'm looking at other options like book scanners or list scanner, stuff like that. But with Inventory Labs, I scan the book, I click on the Prime button, which then opens up Amazon Prime, and it shows me all the different Prime prices. And I basically average out the price myself. And I say, okay, maybe the average price is $14.95. Great. So I'll manually set it as $14.95 as I list it. So then it gets listed up there. Now that whole process takes me less than a minute, so it doesn't take too much of my time. And then what I have my Repricer do is my Repricer basically adjusts the price or reprices it based on the average price and condition of that specific book. So maybe I repriced it as, or maybe I listed it as good, and it's $14.95, and there's maybe 10 other goods as well, and they're around $14.95. So it's going to kind of float right in that area. So I may originally list it as $14.95, but my Repricer will constantly take a look to make sure the other offers are around there. And if someone sells a book that's kind of out of the, or adds a book that's out of the average, or sells a book that's within the average, and it adjusts things automatically, Repricer will, next time it runs, it'll make the adjustments. So the great thing about a repricer is it does the adjustments for you. The only thing you have to make sure of is your templates are set up correctly and the adjustments that it is making are correct and aren't, out of the norm and don't deviate from your normal kind of average price or however you want to price it. So that's kind of what I do is I take a look at the price, I average it, I initially post it with $14.95, for example, for that specific book. And then I kind of sit back and move on to the next book. Now, my repricer actually reprices about 5 times a day. So 5 times a day, and I get a couple times in the morning, a couple times in the afternoon, and one at night. It'll check all my listings and see the competitive offers and reprice some and may not reprice anything at that point. So it really depends on what's adjusted. It really depends on if there's a reason to reprice it. So if there isn't a reason, it's not going to reprice it. So I gave you kind of 2 workflow examples. I have, Reezy's and mine. Again, I may move over to Reezy's type of workflow where I go ahead and set an astronomical price and have the reprice it, figure it out later. So I don't have to sit there and a minute for every book and take a look at the prices. Now, that's what he does. That's what I do. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but right now I've been doing the way I've been doing it for a few months now, and it's been doing great. So if you think about it this way, is yeah, I may be spending a minute on a book, but I'm kind of setting the ground, basically base for my pricing. So if I say $14.95, there's a good chance it'll stay around there. But what Reezy does is when he adjusts his prices with the templates, those prices, I even asked him, he said, it reprices them pretty aggressively. So he may or may not lose money on certain books. He may obviously get money or gain money, but maybe it's repricing it too low. So that's kind of what I'm staying away from. Is I have, I guess, the ability, because I'm not selling as much as him. I have a little more time, so I don't mind spending the extra minute or so to research a book to make sure it's the right price. So I don't want to get too much into this too, but you got to think about the workflow. That's kind of why I'm mentioning the theory part of it. Do you use Inventory Labs? Do you use ScanLister? What do you use? Do you use Amazon? You can use any tool you want to list it, but as far as repricing it, that comes after the fact. Now, Amazon does have its own repricing tool. I've used it. It's pretty cool. It does work. You basically set a range, saying I don't want it to go any higher than this. I don't want it to go any lower than that. So you kind of play with the difference between those two. But Repriceit has many other bells and whistles. You can basically say only reprice if the sales rank is this high or this low. Only reprice if there are so many other offers that are also there. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'll cut from this video and show you kind of my Repriceit account, kind of give you a little bit of a shallow dive. But the main reason why I'm talking to you guys now before is to kind of introduce you to the product. Why people use it? Well, they use it because it saves them time and money. It saves them time because they don't have to worry so much about having to go in and reprice it. Now, I'm still saving money and time because, even though I'm spending a minute or so on each book as I list it, once I list it, Repricer does its job all the time. So I don't have to go back to my 15 to 2,000 books that are on Amazon and go through each one and reprice it because there's competitors. And maybe I set mine to $14.95, but my competitor says it to $14.90. So my Repricer tool may go to $14.89, and they may play with each other every now and then. So it's kind of like a little battle they have in between each other. So when I run reports every few days, every couple times a day, because every time I said my Repricer tool runs 5 times a day. Every time it runs, I get an email report, and then I can log into my Repricer tool and see what changed at that time. Sometimes it's only 5 things. Sometimes it's 100 things. It just depends on all the other offers that are happening. Now, there are many different bells and whistles, like I said, that I'll show them to you. But a Repricer tool is definitely something you should do or look into and make an investment with because it saves you time for sure. Especially if you have over 100 items, this is going to save you some time because instead of having to go ahead and, reprice the stuff all the time, to go in daily and check all your listings. Oh, what are my competitors doing? Amazon does have a way to see it as well, but a Repricer tool is just going to make it so much easier. So I don't want to get too much into the verbal concept theory part of this. I want to kind of dive into the product right now and show you. So let's go ahead and take a look at Repriceit. Okay, so here we are, repriceit.com. That's the website. I'm just going to show you guys the pricing really quick. It is pretty decent pricing, as you can see. For 500 and under items on Amazon, you have $19.95 a month. Anything over that, obviously starts to get higher. I have a little under 2,000 items, so I'm paying for the $16.95 plan. But honestly, the pricing really isn't too bad, because the amount of time this app saves you, this software to save you, is pretty considerable. So it kind of is a pretty decent price. So you also have a 30-day trial if you want to test it out. Definitely try that out. Make sure it works. Make sure it's something you like. I do have to say that a little bit of a learning curve when you first start, because there are a lot of options in here. But once you kind of get used to it, and once you play around with it, you should be pretty good at it. So I'm going to log in really quick to my account. When you first log in, you'll get a little dashboard. How Repriceit works based on templates. So think of a template as a collection of rules for something specific. Maybe you're looking for a certain price. Maybe you're looking for a certain sales rank, or whatever it is. I have 3 templates here set up, as you can see. My global one is my master, my main template, and that's the one that's running right now. I've also been testing a few other things, like I created this test template, and I created this $10.95 template. That's basically a price. So for those of you that have experienced, or haven't yet, but maybe you've seen the US fee change for Amazon. So I had to kind of increase the price of my books to a certain base. So before, I think my lowest book was $8.95 or so. Now I had to set it up to about $10.95. And thanks to the Repriceit tool, I was able to do that pretty easily. So I'll show you a few things here. So when you look at a template, you have the template view, or edit template view, and you have the repricing settings within the template. So let me just show you what my global template looks like. So if I click on view template, I have the template name, the template order. Now the order in this case is 2, but honestly, if you looked at my 3 templates I have total, I only really use 1. The other 2 again are just testing. Now I can delete those, and I'll be in the same spot as I am now, because they're not actually doing anything. There's no action being taken, and I'll explain that in a second. But as you can see, this template's for what kind of items, merchant fulfilled, FBA only, or both FBA and merchant fulfilled. Right now I have my FBA items only. You then can look at certain criteria. Maybe you only want to set up a template for items that have a certain price, or have a certain condition, or have a certain sales rank. Right now, again, this is just a very open, broad template, so I'm not really focusing on anything criteria-wise, just that I'm looking at FBA items only. So I'm not going to make any changes to this. I just wanted to show you that. You obviously can delete the template if you don't like it, and then the view, edit, repricing settings. This is kind of where the magic happens here. So if you do a bunch of research and you ask a bunch of people, they'll have their own little settings. These are the settings that I've used. Again, my settings aren't the right or wrong way. This is just what has worked for me. I've used this template for months now, and I'm extremely happy with it. So to show you, I'll go down this list really quick. There's a really good help little pop-ups here to kind of give you a better idea of what all this stuff means, but I'll go through it pretty quickly with you guys. So compare your new items only against other new competing offers, or compare your used items only against other used competing offers. So you may want to check both of these, because it's going to compare all the used or new items you have with their respective condition. So if it's used, then it's used. If it's new, then it will compare the new. If you don't check both of these, then you might see some issues with that. You can exclude acceptable offers. You can just exclude just launched competing offers. So just launched, or people that just started off with Amazon FBA. Maybe you don't want to compete or look at the prices they're setting, because maybe they're new, maybe they're making a mistake, and you don't want to, fall into the same issue with them. Or maybe you have items that are acceptable and condition-wise, and you don't want to compete with them. So I left these unchecked. I'm okay with it. A lot of people check these. Again, there's no right or wrong way here. It's just kind of what works for you. So again, some people may say to check it. Some people may say not. So that's kind of what I have. Exclude competing offers with a seller ranking below 80%. So most people set this to 90. I think the default is 90. So seller rating that's below 80%, this thing won't ignore. This thing will ignore. So if there's an offer that I'm competing with that has the seller rating of 70%, it'll ignore it. So anything above that, it'll look at it and kind of do its algorithm magic with that. Next, coming down here, these are very important, especially if you don't want to make all your items a very low price by mistake. So minimum allowable price. So if I just set my 10.95 here, that means that if there's anything else below here that I'll get to later, if it's trying to reprice it and it's below this minimum allowable price, it won't reprice it, which is probably a good thing. So for example, if I have a book now that is $14.95 and I have my minimum allowable price is $10.95, but there are like 10 other offers that come in at $5.95, it's going to try to reprice it and average out to the $5.95, which will be below $10.95, and that may or may not be something I want to do. So what this is going to do, it's going to protect you from not going under your minimal allowable price. So this is a good thing. Now, another extra step is you can check this box and it will set it to $10.95 if it's below $10.95. So for example, to give you that same example before, if I have a book that's $14.95 and there's a bunch of other offers that are $5.95, it's going to try to set it to $5.95, but since I have a minimum allowable price of $10.95 and I check the box to say default price to minimum allowable price, it'll set it to $10.95. So if I don't check this, it won't reset it at all or won't adjust it at all. But if I do set it to this, it will adjust it to my minimum, which is this. So just keep in mind that you have some layers of protection here as far as your repricing tools, which is great. So again, I'll go over that one more time. So if it finds an offer that's under your minimum allowable price and you have it set like this, it won't do anything. It won't readjust it. But if you have an offer that's under your minimal price and you have this checked, it will set it to whatever your minimum price is. So I have this checked like that. So for example, if a book comes in right now from a couple offers that's under $10.95, it's going to change it to my listing price at $10.95 when it was maybe originally $12.95. So this is a good couple layers of protection. And same thing here, maximum allowable price. So the maximum allowable price that I will allow is, almost $300. If it goes over that $300, it won't set it to $29.99. It'll just ignore it. And again, I don't have many books at all that have this set. So this is more just a fail-safe, to be honest. The maximum number of competing offers to compare against. So the default, I believe, is 6. Yeah, the default is 6. I put it to 10. The higher you put it, the more conservative the pricing is, the more conservative the algorithm is. So I think 10's the max. Yeah, 10's the max, so I just leave it at 10. Reprice new items when there are at least this many offers, new offers and used offers. I leave these to 1. I believe the default is 1 as well. So again, many different options here. This is just kind of my template that I have. The one that's kind of important that people sometimes focus on or sometimes don't is the default price when there are 0 or too few competing offers for a given item. So what this will do is there are going to be many books out there that don't have enough or don't have any competing offers. So in that case, whatever price you put here, that's what your pricer is going to set that price to. And that may or may not be a good thing. So I see a lot of people set this to like $19.99 or $19.95 or somewhere in that range. So if there are no competing offers or there's too few, maybe not enough to make a decision, it'll just set a default price. I leave it blank because I don't want it to set a default price because don't forget what I'm doing when I list is I'm taking the extra minute or so and setting an initial price on my books. So I'm okay with it not putting a default price if there's too few offers, because I already put an offer. I already put a price. Now, for those that are like Reezy and other people like that, that don't put a conservative initial offer down, they put like $29.99 as their initial offer because they're using the repricer later on to make the change. They may want to put a default price because somewhere in their templates, remember I mentioned before, Reezy has like 10 templates that he uses for this. I only have one. So within his 10 templates, it may catch it and it may reprice it the way it should. But again, I'm doing it a little differently, so I'm not too concerned with a default price right now. This is very good actually too. This is almost like a catch-all and also a bit of a fail-safe too. If the price of an item goes down a certain percentage, then don't reprice. Also, if the price of an item goes above a certain percent, then don't reprice. So what this basically says is if the price goes down 5% or more, if the price goes down more than 5%, don't make any changes to it. Now, this is a little low. I actually changed this before to, I believe it was 30%. Yeah. So I changed this to about 30%. So again, I'm still playing with my thing here. So for example, if my book is $14.95 and there's other offers out there and the repricer says, oh, I want to change this to $10.95. If that's more than 5%, it's not going to adjust it. It's just going to ignore it and just wait till next time. But if it's 5% or lower, it'll probably adjust it. And maybe it adjusts it to $11.95 or $12.95, whatever it is. So this is a good kind of layer of protection as well. So for example, again, if the price of an item goes down more than this percentage, do not reprice. So if I do 40%, for example, so if my price right now is $29.99 and the repricer wants to change it to $10.95, based on this value, it may not change it because it's more or less 40% of a difference. So this is just to protect yourself from making sure your repricer tool isn't adjusting your price too low. So I probably should put this back to 30. I'm going to leave it to 5 for now, just the way I have it. But that's all it's doing. It's kind of a layer of protection for you to make sure your pricing doesn't kind of shoot you in the foot, in the long run. And the same goes for if the price goes up more than a certain percentage. Now I just put this 100% because I don't see any issues with that. I don't have any pricing that goes up that high. Repricing modes. So here you have options. You have the buy box. You have the lowest possible competing price. You have the same condition or better. And you have intelligent repricing. So Repriceit. This is Repriceit's like algorithm that it uses, its own little special algorithm. I've used it a bit. It's okay. It does its thing, but I've found better results with same condition or better. Again, based on how I'm doing it. Now, someone like Reezy may be doing lowest possible because he's setting it up where he adjusts the price at first very high, and then he has templates to go in and kind of knock out all the other ones that aren't repriced yet. But for what I'm doing, my one template, I use the same condition or better. And again, I would play with this the best you can because most of what I've been doing with this is I've just been testing. Whenever I see an article or see a video where someone made an adjustment, oh, try this now because this works, I'll play around with it. I'll adjust the settings. I'll create a template just for that specific model of what they did, and I'll go ahead and try it myself. So yeah, so testing is probably the best thing you can do with this, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. So you can say do not reprice items with a sales rank above whatever the value is, which is nice. Only reprice an item when the price goes up, which is kind of up repricing, which is kind of cool if you wanted to do that. Positive repricing, they call it, sorry. Pricing against Amazon, I think the default is 5, so I put it to 6. So percentage amount to price below Amazon when competing directly against them. So remember, as my other videos had mentioned, if Amazon's selling a book, if they're one of the people that are one of the offers against one of your books you're selling, you may want to price lower than them so you can make a sale. So what this does, it automatically prices 6% lower than them, which is nice. Now, if this 6% is lower than theirs, great, but it also uses this one up here. So if I'm going under a certain price, it'll catch it, which is nice. How much do you want to price below or above the offer you're competing against? So you can do a fixed price. You can say percentage price adjustment below target competing offer or competing offer. If I'm going to undercut someone, I'll undercut them by 3%. So this is just about undercutting, and you can do, price above the target offer too if you wanted to go that way. But I'm only doing the undercutting. So a lot of people mention, and the Repricer is very similar to the other apps you guys may use, like FBA Scan or Profit Bandit and stuff like that. Remember, if you probably heard this, they usually say, focusing on FBA pricing is not the best way, most accurate way, because those APIs, those apps only use about the first 20 offers. So you're not really getting the full picture. So what people do is they choose non-FBA, so merchant offers, and then they use that as a guide with these templates. I've tried both. Maybe I haven't tried long enough, but I haven't really found it to be the best and most accurate method. So I keep it to FBA only. That's just what I do. Again, it's kind of what you want to do as well. Next one too is the following settings apply only to your merchant fulfilled items. This is checked. I'm not sure why right now. Oh, the shipping amount. Yeah, this was always checked. I just left it checked here. But skipping that really quick, the more important options here. That's why there's a nice big warning next to it. So if I made all these changes above and I hit save and I kept this checked, next time this runs, and I'll show you what my schedule is, but next time this runs and this is checked, it's going to make the changes on my Amazon account automatically for me. So if you haven't learned anything from this video, the one thing you need to make sure you learn is this here. This is probably the most important checkbox out of everything in this template right now. Checking this box will push all your changes to Amazon, and it will make the changes next time it runs. So that's very important. So if you made any adjustments, when this is checked and when it runs, it'll make the changes. So I mentioned this a few times because it's extremely important. 1, 2, this is where you kind of test your repricing tool. If I uncheck this and hit save, next time it runs, it's going to show me a report of the results of what it did, but it's not going to change anything on Amazon, which is what I want. But let me just change this back, just to change it back to normal, because this is my global one here. Let me show you my schedule really quick. So you can make as many schedules as you want, but these are my schedules. So my global one runs 6 times a day, actually. 7:34, 10 o'clock, 12:36, 3:38, 6, and 9. So those are running 6 times a day, and I have my 1095 one running right smack in the middle of the day, and I'll show you what that one looks like. So again, remember when I said when it runs? So these are the times when it runs. So if I check that box under my global template, and what time is it now? It's 10:52 in the morning. So the next time this runs is going to be 12:36 p.m. So when this runs at 12:36 p.m. and my checkbox is checked, it'll apply whatever settings I have in that template at that time and make the changes. If I don't have that box checked, the template, it'll run, but it won't make any changes on my Amazon. So depending on how you're testing. So when you guys are testing, my advice is to create a template and then uncheck this box and then hit save. And that'll go ahead and you can run it right now. So if I wanted to run it right this second, I can do that. I just go back to my dashboard and I go reprice it now. So if I hit reprice it now and I go reprice it now, it'll say reprice request has been submitted. Repricing reports will be available upon completion. So to see your repricing reports, just go to repricing reports, and these are my reports. They're divided up into 3 categories. Inventory upload, which means it's what's actually being uploaded. Items not processed, which means they weren't repriced for whatever reason, maybe based on my template, they just didn't apply. And also items repriced. So if you wanted to check out to see what my repriced items were, my changes were this morning, I can go to this one here, items repriced. So think about this. There's 3 every time. So you see 1014, 1014, 1014, then 737, da da da. So there's 3 at a time. So if I choose items repriced, here, let me just change this by price change, just so you see this. So this morning, it only changed about 4 of my books. Not a whole lot, but that's 4 books that I didn't have to adjust, which is nice. So that's definitely something to see and to be aware of. Now, another thing to think about is the price change. It only changed it, a little bit. This one was a bigger price change for whatever reason. It changed it. It increased it $4, which is nice. Now, if I click on any of these items here, which I'll do right now, it gives you a bit of a breakdown. This is a new item. The current price that I had was $29.07. The suggested price was $28.15. It gives you the ISBN. It gives you a bunch of other stuff, the sales rank, the total number of offers. And then looky here. So this side here is merchant, I believe. Yeah, these are merchant, and these are FBA prices on the right. So my original price was $29.07, and it moved it down to $28.15. So this was someone that had very good, and it set it to $28.15. So it was a little higher than this guy. So it changed. It's kind of competing against this guy here. And this is what the beauty of this app does. It constantly checks this stuff for you. Let me give you another one. So let's look at this bottom one here. So the current price is $16.66. Its suggested price was $21.31. And this is good. So mine was too low. Some people came in pretty high, so mine adjusted it to $21.31. So I'm kind of right in the middle there, which I'm okay with. So again, as you can see what it does, it automatically does that for you. I didn't have to do anything. So let me jump to an older date. This was earlier in the morning, so another 4. Sometimes there's 5. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less results here. So as you can see, my price change really wasn't that much. Went down 95 cents, it went up 13 cents. So again, I don't really have to worry too much about this. I can come here and just pick anyone that has the items repriced like this. Here there's only 3. So again, what this is constantly doing is changing things. Now, what I could do, just for fun, I'll show you, is let me change this to 30%. And I have my box checked. So if I hit save settings, and then I go ahead and see if I can change it. Because remember I ran it before. Let me see if it'll allow me. No, I can't do it yet. So it's running a task right now, so I gotta wait. So what I usually do is I go to Repricing Reports, and I just kind of hang out here. When this time changes, obviously when there's another 3 items here, that means that one ran. I have, I think, 1,500 to almost 2,000 items here, so it'll take a little bit of time. Okay, so what I did is I let the other Repricer schedule to run and finish. The first one I did, so it finished at 10:56, and if I just show you kind of what it did, it only changed 3 things, not really that much, so that's okay. I ran another one just now, around 11:05, so I'm going to keep talking and just kind of come back to this page, and as soon as I see another 3 here from like after 11:05, then I know that's my next one. And what I did, just to show you, is I went into my global settings here and I changed this from 5 to 30%. So what I'm doing is I'm allowing it to change and reprice things more. Instead of anything kind of outside of 5%, it won't adjust it. But now I'm doing anything outside or within 30%. So if the price of an item goes down more than this percentage, do not reprice. That's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm allowing it to be a little more open and not as aggressive to it. So now we just kind of sit and wait to see what happens here. Let me see here. Just make sure everything else is good. Yeah, looks okay. So this is pretty much the main window here, as you can see. There are some bells and whistles here you can do. You can exclude certain items. You can enter in your personal SKU number here, and it won't go ahead and reprice it. So maybe you have a specific product you don't want it to reprice. You can just go ahead and set it there. You can also use wildcard, which is nice. So sometimes when you list items, it lists them incrementally, at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can just put in a wildcard. So anything with this kind of prefix, it'll ignore or exclude. Let's see if it's done yet. Just hit refresh. No, again, I'm waiting for this to say 11:05. Anything after 11:05, really. So actually, the 10:05 one I'm using, I forgot. So this one I'll show you really quick. This is my template that I used to change all my kind of bottom prices. So I had like items and books that were like $10.95, stuff like that. So if I show you the actual template settings for this, so notice here the price range, anything that I had in my inventory from 0 to $10.94, I'm making $10.95. So anything that was below $10.94, pretty much, or $10.94 and below, I'm pretty much saying go ahead and make that $10.95 now is my lowest price. Because again, Amazon changed their U.S. fees for for everyone in the U.S. So I need to make sure that my books are a minimum of a certain price in order for me to make some money. So the books that I had that were around $8.95, $9.95, stuff like that, I really wasn't making that much money off of. So I wanted to make sure my books were at least $10.95. So that would do that. Okay, so repricing reports. So look, I got a new one here. So let me look for items repriced. As you can see, I have quite a few adjustments here, which I'm okay with. So my price changes, let's say the most it goes down is $9.59 for this specific book. As you can see, I said again, I usually kind of sort it by price changes so I can see the difference. If I do it again, this is the least amount of it went down, which is nice, which I'm okay with. So it pushed a lot of these $11.95s down to $10.95, or $12.95s down to $10.95, and so on and so forth, which is okay. So there's 151. If I go to the last page, there you go. So it dropped a couple of them, a couple dollars, sometimes $9, $7, and that was about it. So if I go back to my Repriceit settings, so yeah, since I had this box checked, it actually made the changes on Amazon already, which I'm okay with. So it kind of just allowed me to open my door up to my Repricer tool repricing things not as aggressively, because I'm saying, if the price of an item goes down more than this percentage, do not reprice. So before I had 5%. So if it goes down more than 6% or more, don't reprice. But now I'm saying if it goes down more than 31% or more, don't reprice. So anything from 30% and under, it will. So it's going to open up a lot more. So if I change this to like 90%, it's going to reprice a lot of different things, I'm sure. But I had 30% at one point, so I'm going to put it back to 30%. I forgot to put it back there before. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Again, this one I can delete. I'm not using my test template anymore. So I have these two guys here, my global and my 1095 one. Yeah, so let me see here if there's anything else. Repriceit now just goes ahead and reprices everything if I wanted to. My settings, I can make some changes. This is just the same page as before. Item settings, I can go ahead and make some individual changes here, which I'm not going to do right now. But the few major pages on here are your schedules. I have some people that I've seen that they do it twice or 2 times, 3, 4 times a day, which is acceptable if they wanted to. How often they want it to run. As you can see, from the reports. So let's do yesterday. So this was last night. Last night only 4 things changed. And then last night, before that, only 3 things changed. So it doesn't cost me any more money to run this once a day or 100 times a day. But I kind of want to keep it somewhat conservative as well, so I run it 5 times a day. So that's pretty much what it's doing. Again, the main sections here are really the Repriceit settings. I can also go here. So what I would do, my biggest advice for you is to play around with these settings. Make sure this box is not checked when you hit save and then when you run. Because think about this. Think about this as your rule base. Whatever rules you have in here are the rules that are going to apply. But they'll only apply to Amazon, meaning they'll only publish to Amazon when this box is checked. Otherwise, if you make the rule set, you uncheck this, you hit save, and then you run it, to see the results, to see what it actually is going to do, before it actually makes a dent or changes anything on Amazon, you come here and you look at the report, and it'll show you what the action was. So to show you again, let me see, items not processed. So you can look at the items not processed, and this is not everything else, but this is items that aren't processed, and it tells you why. There's no qualifying competing offers, too few competing user offers. Those are mainly the major ones here. Now, if you remembered earlier on in the video, there was a option within the template that shows you a default price. If I set my default price to $19.95, it would actually change the price to $19.95 for these. This is a non-qualifying competing offer, or there's too few competing offers. So my results page would have a lot more if I chose the default price of $19.95 or whatever it was, because there are a lot of items that fall into that condition, which is okay. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you. I hope this helps a bit. Again, Repriceit is not the only repricer tool out there. It's just the one that I've used. I'm still kind of playing around with it. I may go into multiple templates down the road, but right now, for the past few months, this has been working out pretty well for me. But again, it just gives you another idea of kind of how these are done. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. And that's about it with this. All right, so there you go. That's Repriceit. That's kind of how I approach things. And like I said, be creative. This isn't the only way to do it, my way or Reezy's way. This is just kind of how it is and how I've set it up. But I hope this helps kind of understand how Repriceit works and a little bit of an introduction on what it can do. But again, you're free to use your own settings, to use your own conditions and triggers and things like that. So I hope this had helped you a lot. And if you have any questions, let me know. Obviously, if you go ahead and like this video, go ahead and smash that like button. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave a comment below. And of course, if you want to get notified when more of my videos come out on a bunch of other things I'm doing on Amazon, and maybe some how-to videos, go ahead and subscribe. All right, well, have an awesome day.